I had dropped out like in the 6th grade. I was so bored in school. I just could not stand sitting in that classroom and just. I remember I used to like tap on my desk with drum beats, like, and then they would send me out in the hall, and then I'd be banging on the lockers with drum beats, and then like they would say, pull out your pen and paper, and I would just start drawing, I had no interest in school at that time. I've never been the kind of person, that can handle like sitting somewhere all day, I got too much going on in my head, So my dad pulled me out, and I went to home. He got me a private tutor, that I used for a while. I remember we went to court too, like, because I was supposed to be in school. Like back then, you couldn't homeschool your kids, I guess. But I remember like one thing I've always been pretty good at is math. And one thing that I just really hated was like social studies and, history and stuff like that. This stuff bored me to death. When we went to the court, the judge asked me what country is next to wherever, and I answered it, and the whole courtroom just started laughing because I was just so wrong. I mean, I just totally guessed. I had no idea. Everybody was laughing, and anyways, I guess they found my dad guilty, but which is weird because like after all that stuff that he had to go through, like with the courts and stuff, they found him guilty, but they gave him no punishment. And so my dad's attorney was like, well, if you're fine with being guilty and no punishment, then you're free. I actually used to sell weed. I was just a kid, everybody in the neighborhood smoked weed at that time. And I started selling it, and it got to the point to where I was making a ton of money. And I had like so much traffic coming to my house, and like I'm like this 14-year-old kid living in this house, and my neighbors are probably thinking, what is going on over there? There's like 20 cars at any time of the day, like just all day long, just non-stop traffic. One day I went outside to check the mail or something, and like 20 cop cars pulled up, and I just turned around and started walking inside. I thought that was it, but they actually just kept going. I eventually got to the point where I was just so paranoid that I just couldn't even function, so I had to get out of it. But me and my best friend at the time, Mark, we used to sell weed together back then. We had just gotten like a brick of weed, and like you'd have to like steam it to get it to like fluff up, so you could break it apart. Anyways, we had locked all the doors in the house so we could like steam this brick in the kitchen. That way my dad wouldn't walk in and catch us, Anyways, we had steamed it, and then we took the brick into my bedroom, and I used to have this desk that sat right in front of this window. We're just sitting there, like breaking it up, like dividing it into ounces or whatever, or quarter bags or whatever, and I hear the ta-ta-ta-ta, Marcus, open up! I already saw the stuff. Man, what I didn't think about is the blinds, how you have your blinds. The blinds were like shooting straight down onto the pile of weed. Anyways, man, we were busted. So like we quickly turned the lights off. Like my friend Mark grabbed all the weed and took off running down the road, and like went and stashed it in this alley somewhere, and like they called my friend's parents, and then he got in trouble, and then we weren't able to hang out for a long time after that. I remember him asking me like, son, what were you doing with all of that marijuana? I was like, well, Dad, I sell it. I think when I was around 17 or 16, 17, 18, we were kind of getting into a point where everything was changing musically. Everything, all the hair metal bands are dying out, and then the heavier bands are coming in. I mean, it was a phase when I was listening to, like heavy stuff like Suicidal Tendencies and Slayer, but then, like Pantera came out, and then it seemed like when, Pantera came out, it was like everybody and their grandmother was trying to like sound just like Pantera. Mm-hmm. The musicians I played with, started playing in different bands, and I not like the heavy stuff. I just didn't want to play what they were playing. I just wanted to. I guess I wanted to play something that had more feeling involved. I mean, like emotional feeling, and I didn't develop, my own style, or even. I actually never even thought about like the genre or anything that I was going to be playing. I just for a long time I would just learn Metallica songs, Slayer songs, Suicidal songs, DRI songs. I would just learn all that stuff. Honestly, I'm not sure where my style even came from. When I was younger and growing out my hair, it seemed like an eternity before I could get it to the right length. I remember so many times, like I would start to get it to a nice length, and then like my grandparents or somebody would want me to cut it, and then I would cut it, and I'd be back to square one again. I'd let it grow out again, and you gotta go past that fluffy phase where everything's weird, and then your hair starts to get a little bit longer, and then it looks a little more normal. I get like when I turned 16, I started working for a guy named Bobby. We used to like level houses, and he talked me into like cutting my hair off so I would look more professional. I don't know, I don't think, maybe not cutting my hair actually, like slowed me down from music. I think it was just, once I started working, I just kind of like, all of my time had went to working, and I was probably so tired by the time I got off of work. And I didn't have much energy left. And then I got into a semi-serious relationship, like when I was around 18, and then, there was a while where I just quit doing music altogether. Anyways, I eventually quit selling weed, and then I took the money that I made and I used that to buy a bunch of lawn equipment, and I started a lawn business, and I did that for a while. I think the name of the business was called Green Tree. I went from green leaf to green tree. And I did that for a while until I met that guy Bobby doing house leveling, and then I actually learned quite a bit from him, but he had some issues, he would, I remember he used to like hire us, and they would take us to these houses, and we would like go underneath the house, and we would bang on boards, and he would like basically, take advantage of these old ladies, telling them that they had these problems with their house, and then he would send us under there, and we would make a bunch of noise, and he would collect money. But then after that, I got a job working as a carpenter's helper. I did that for a while, and then I started to get pretty good at it. After that, I opened up my own business, remodeling company or whatever, and I did that till I was about 21. We made some money, but then, it was like it was pretty unstable. I remember I was broke, and they were building this apartment complex, and I went over there to look for work, and they gave me a job, and I wound up doing that for a couple of years, and then I would go back, to start my own business again, and then I would make money, and then it was still pretty inconsistent, pretty unstable. And then I became a contractor in a few other cities, and then, we were doing some pretty big jobs at that time, and then that didn't work out. I mean, I learned a lot, but, a problem I had back then was that, when you're young like that, I mean, I was pretty talented with, working with wood or remodeling or whatever, but I was so young that I don't think a lot of people had confidence in me, because I was so young. And the people that we did work for, they were pretty amazed, So many times in my life I've been in a situation where it just seemed like so helpless, just... And here I am, here I am, got through it. And you don't realize it until, until you look back on your life, even though things seem like impossible at the moment, like there's a way out, there's a way to get through it,